when I was just a baby.
She thought she was the sickest little girl in the world.
Then it graduated to a seizure disorder, muscular dystrophy, to leukemia.
But it was all a lie,
She controlled everything in my life.
made up by her cruel mother.
She was particularly manipulative.
So Gypsy Rose took drastic action.
Whose plan was it to kill your mother?
It was my plan.
That's next on 60 Minutes. You're unlikely to meet anyone sweeter than Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She really is charming, but she's also a convicted murderer. With help from a boyfriend she met online, she killed her very own mother. The brutal crime, Dee Blanchard was stabbed to death, happened 10 years ago, and Gypsy Rose was jailed. But she's now free and very determined to let the world know why she did what she did.
I bought some things. So we have the crib, we have a dresser.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard has one promise for her soon-to-be-born first child. Whatever it takes, she'll be the best mother she can be.
So what are we looking for?
Clothes.
Yeah.
I love shopping for clothes.
And certainly nothing like her own mother, who, while pretending to be loving and caring,
And what about your mum? Did she like dressing you up and...
She did.
was anything but. So evil, in fact, Gypsy has just spent 8.5 years in jail for murdering her.
Breaking news this morning, 48-year-old Dee Blanchard was found dead inside her home, and her 19-year-old daughter Gypsy is still considered missing.
This is an ongoing investigation. And I want to start off with saying things are not always as they appear.
I wasn't born evil. I wasn't born a murderer. My circumstances took me there, and that was my path.
It's a tale with all the twists and turns of a Hollywood thriller. A sweet little girl plagued by relentless and serious illness. Gypsy was raised by a seemingly doting single mum, who was in fact a monster.
She was particularly manipulative and convincing.
Isolated and abused, for decades, Gypsy slipped through the cracks of America's healthcare system. Until, she says, she had no choice but to end her mother's life.
Are you a victim or a murderer?
I'm both victim and perpetrator.
And do these photos bring back happy memories, or are they
They do.
upsetting for you?
They were the simple times in life.
Yeah.
I say when things were good.
Yeah?
So.
Born in Louisiana in 1991 and raised by her mother, Claudine, or Dee Blanchard, Gypsy was a sickly child. Also, Dee told everyone, including the little girl's father, Rod, who she rarely saw.
Right from birth, 3 months old, Dee was telling me that she had sleep apnea, which, I mean, until this day, I don't know if that was real or not. You know, it escalated from then. Problems with her eyes, hearing, her digestive system. After that, Gypsy couldn't walk anymore. She had a muscular disorder.
Dee confined Gypsy to a wheelchair, even when it was just the two of them at home, and fed her daughter medications which gave her horrible side effects, mimicking the symptoms of various illnesses.
There was a long list of medical illnesses that my mom told the doctors that I had, ranging from muscular dystrophy to leukemia, hearing impaired, vision impaired, anything that could be wrong with someone, honestly.
And you believed her?
I did believe her because I grew up that way. So she started telling the doctors that I had sleep apnea when I was just a baby. and then it graduated to a seizure disorder, and she kept building on that list of things. So by the end of it all, there was not a single part of my body that didn't have something supposedly wrong with it.
Looking at the open ocean now, and it's beautiful.
By the age of 8, Gypsy was a regular patient in local hospitals and had a feeding tube inserted in her stomach.
I think the feeding tube is one of the things that gives me the most alarm, because once a child has a tube that either goes through their nose and into their stomach, or directly surgically a tube that goes into their stomach, that parent can put in any kind of poisoning or medicine or toxin, and they can also starve the child.
Total control.
Total control.
Professor Beatrice Yorker is one of America's leading experts in child abuse. She says Dee Dee Blanchard had a severe case of Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Munchausen syndrome is a condition where somebody makes themselves ill for the purposes of getting medical attention. When it's Munchausen syndrome by proxy, or Munchausen by proxy abuse, instead of making yourself sick, you make your child sick or a dependent in your care sick for the purposes of getting medical attention.
Why would any mother do this?
They do it because they are getting their needs for attention. Their needs to be in a nurturing hospital environment. Their need to be seen as a caring, wonderful mother, doing everything for their child that has special needs or is dying or has some horrible condition. And they bask in it, and they have a compulsive need to get that kind of attention.
And in this case, financial reward as well.
Exactly.
The sweet little sick girl captured the hearts and pity of Americans. Gypsy and Dee Dee were given cash from charities, trips to Disney World, even a new home.
It's beautiful, and it's happy, and it's full of love.
But experiences that seemed charming in childhood lost their shine by her early 20s. When Gypsy discovered the internet and the world she was missing out on. It was here at New Orleans Children's Hospital where Gypsy spent so much of her childhood, undergoing dozens of medical procedures which she now knows were unnecessary. Her mother, Dee Dee, would bring Gypsy here with an endless list of problems and symptoms. The seemingly doting parent insisting her child needed treatment. And if suspicions were raised or questions asked, Dee Dee would quickly move hospitals, even cities. Over the years, Gypsy was treated by at least 150 doctors and medical specialists. At what stage or age did you realise that it was a farce?
I knew that I could walk. I knew that I could eat, so I didn't need the feeding tube. But the other things like cancer, you can't see that. So I had believed that I had cancer up until the time that I was arrested and could talk to my lawyer.
How does a mother or any parent convince medical professionals that their child is, in this case, terminally ill, when in fact they're perfectly healthy?
Oh, it's so easy. Doctors are trained to rely on the history provided by the patient or provided by the patient's parent. So when a mother says, my child has been vomiting and vomiting and they can't keep food down, and the child looks dehydrated and maybe emaciated or underweight, the doctor believes the mother that the child has been vomiting and vomiting. And maybe it turned out that the mother is actually not feeding the child.
So is it a serious mental illness?
No. The people who do this are perfectly conscious and aware and plan and premeditate what they do.
And their victims